So you want a new iPhone? Should you upgrade now or wait? I have another option. Check it out. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another super exciting video. I know you're going to love this one because it's not about computers. It's about iPhones. So if you don't like iPhones, please close this video. But I wanted to talk about upgrading your iPhone. I made a video about this a year ago when I upgraded, and I wanted to revisit the subject because I was going to upgrade again, and I wanted to cover when or why should you upgrade, or when or why should you not upgrade. And so the link to the original video will be down below, but I want to just do a quick recap of why I upgraded my iPhone a year ago and what the options were at the time, and now things have changed. It's been a year. So if you go back then, this was March 2024, I had an iPhone XR or 10R. It was fine. It was a 64 gigabyte model, and I bought it for $230 a year before that, so in 2023, and it worked great. I had no complaints about it. The thing is, I kept running out of storage because I was starting to make videos, and then I would record the videos, edit the videos on the iPhone, and it was just always out of space. Then the battery life went down to 80-something%, and so I constantly had to charge it all the time, and then I had a battery pack for it, and it was getting kind of annoying. So I just said, I'm gonna upgrade this phone at some point. So at the time, these were the options of upgrading. So you have 10R. The next phone up would have been the iPhone 11. At that time, it was going for about $300. And to me, I didn't really want the iPhone 11 because the iPhone 11 is basically the 10R with two cameras. And I just felt like that wasn't much of an upgrade, if that makes sense. I mean, it would have been just basically a newer version of the same phone, which probably would have been fine, but I just felt like I needed, I wanted to, if I was going to upgrade, at least make it something kind of better. Also, the iPhone 11, I think, mostly came in 64 gigs, and so then I would have had the same space issue. So then I thought, well, I'll get an iPhone 12, because the iPhone 12 had the MagSafe. And that's kind of the reason why I was like, well, the iPhone 12 then would make sense. But that was $300. It was $350 for a refurbished one. And then what ended up happening was the job that I was at, they gave me an iPhone 13 Pro Max to use for work, but I could also use it for recording videos. So I was going to get the iPhone 12, but I didn't because I had the other phone to use. I could record videos on it, and then I would just send the video to my phone and then do the editing. And so basically there was no reason to get a 12 at that point. And then there was no reason to get the iPhone 13 because I had an iPhone 13. So months went by, and I just decided, I'm going to use the 13 for stuff. Even though it's a work phone, I could use it for stuff. And then my 10R is just basically a phone at that point. And then the iPhone 14 came out, which was new then. And then very quickly after the iPhone 14 came out, the iPhone 15 came out, which was the iPhone 14 basically with a USB-C port, which is what interested me. Then I was thinking, okay, well, if and when I upgrade, I should probably get the 15 because it has a USB-C port. That's better, right? Time went on, but I like to buy the phone if so I never buy new stuff, right? If you watch my channel, you'll see me never buy anything new. It's always used. It's always the generation before, etc., etc. So when the iPhone 15 came out, I noticed that the iPhone 14 prices were dropping significantly. And so I said, okay, I'm going to upgrade then to maybe the 14. It was like 12, 13, 14, 15. Trying to upgrade a phone is really, if you do too much research, it's really, really annoying. And I just didn't know what to do. So I ended up, for some reason or another, stuck on the iPhone 14 because there was an offer where you could buy the iPhone 14. It was $560 for the phone, brand new, but you could buy it for $25 a month. So that was the retail price. It wasn't some sort of weird financing thing where it was, when you finance something and then the price is actually, twice as much as it's supposed to be. It was $599, but it was discounted to $569 through this company. Brand new, not refurbished or anything, full warranty for $25 a month. So I said, okay, I'll do that. Why not? So then I couldn't decide between the iPhone 14 and the 14 Plus. And there was the 14 and the 14 Plus has no difference. The only difference is the screen is bigger and the battery's bigger. And I thought at the time, I said, well, I'll get the 14 small one because I have to put my phone in and out of my pocket several times a day. And I don't like the Plus because it's hard to get out, especially when you get in your car and something alerts going off and you can't get it out of your pocket, and it's just really annoying. So I actually opted for the smaller version. So fast forward to today, I've had that iPhone 14 for a year. It's been pretty good, but my complaints about it now are the battery life is not good, even as brand new, because I use it too much. And I have a MagSafe charger for the back battery pack, but the battery pack is so big and heavy that it falls off because it's not the Apple one. So it'll just, if I put the phone in my pocket, it'll just fall off. And I don't blame the phone for that. It's because I have a cheap charger, but that charger can charge the phone all day long, and you never need to charge anything. So it's nice to have, but the combo doesn't really work. So if you see now in the last year, every video that I've made in the last year is on the iPhone 14, and it has been very good. I probably wouldn't notice the difference between a 13 and a 14 anyway, but I found out that the 14 is actually just a 13 Pro, basically same cameras and stuff. So it's been good. So I paid off the phone. Even though it was $25 a month, I actually paid $50 a month. So I paid it off in a year instead of 2 years. And everything's fine. So I don't really have a need to upgrade. But the iPhone 16 came out, and I kept getting these messages from AT&T because that's what I use for my internet. And they keep saying, if you trade in your phone, you get a new iPhone 16. And then you'll get 20% off for your wireless bill. And it interested me, but if I went from a 14 to a 16, I'm not sure what I would gain outside of maybe better battery life. But I was like, nah. And then it said if you do the iPhone 15, it's free. but you have a 2-year contract. So that was interesting. But again, there was no reason to upgrade. I couldn't find a reason to upgrade except for the fact that I kind of wanted a plus because of the battery life. But other than that, I just couldn't find a reason. I don't do selfies. I don't do all the normal iPhone stuff. I don't have a dynamic island, which would have been on the 16 and the 15. So I don't miss it because I've never used it before. And then there's the USB-C, but again, I don't know. But I said, here was my thinking, and I justified me upgrading to a 16. I thought, well, okay, if I get a 16 for free, I can sell my iPhone 14 for $300 right now. And then I would have to pay, what was it? It's $5 a month if you get an iPhone 16. So $5 a month times 2 years is about, something like that. Anyway, I kind of was thinking, I was justifying, I said, well, if I upgrade, I pay $5 a month, I switch my carrier, and I can sell the iPhone 14 for $300. I'll have cash in my pocket, and this was all worked out in my head for the past 2 months. But I never pulled the trigger because I kept changing the phone. I went to iPhone 16, 16 Plus, 15, 16, and I never could figure it out. I mean, last Friday, a week ago, I had everything set up. It was in my cart. I picked the phone. I picked the store I was going to pick it up from. It would have cost me nothing to get it up front, just the $5 or $10 a month. And then I actually had a buyer for my old phone, the 14, and I didn't do it. I just, for some reason, that was Friday. On Monday, I said, you know what? I'm not doing it. I'm just going to have to live with what I have, because then I have to change my carrier, change my plan, and it just, I don't know, it just seemed like a lot of a hassle. Anyway, the point of this video is I want to show you this. So what I did was I kind of beat the system here. I went back to my old way of thinking, and that's just have 2 phones. Why not have 2 phones? I've always had 2 phones in the past. It's only been recently that I had the 1 phone. And what's happening is, because I'm doing so many things with 1 phone, that's what's killing the phone. So in the past, I always had 2 phones. I always had 2 cars. I always have 2 computers. I always have 2 of everything. Maybe I'm weird like that. Because let's say you lose your phone, or somebody steals it from you. You have a second phone. What if your car breaks down? You have a second car. You can drive the other car. You have 2 computers. What if your computer blows up? You have a second computer. It's just, I've always thought that way. It's kind of a redundancy thing. So what happened is, just by coincidence, is I found this ad on OfferUp, just randomly, wasn't looking. iPhone 11 for $50. Not locked or anything. Works fine. It has some little lines in the screen in the top part, but otherwise it's fine. I've tried it now for a day, and it works. It's perfect. And just a side bonus, I didn't even check the capacity of the phone. It's a 128 gig phone. So now I can do all of my video recording on the other phone, and I don't have to wear out my main phone. My main phone can now live forever, even though it's small. But I think that if I didn't use my regular phone for all the recording and editing and stuff, that the battery life wouldn't be so bad as it is. So that's the solution. So if you're thinking about upgrading your phone, there is another way. Just get another one. Have two phones. One phone for your phone and one phone for your recording. Or you can use both at the same time. I can use the other phone as a top-down camera when I do work on stuff. And I don't have to use my phone anymore for that. And I don't think, I assume the iPhone 14 camera is a lot better than the iPhone 11. But I don't think, as far as YouTube goes, nobody's going to notice the difference, really. The quality is going to be the same online. You might notice if it was 4K or something like that. But anyway, that's what I did. And so now I don't have to buy a new phone. I paid a $50 fee for the iPhone 11. And that will be my secondary camera phone. And there's no monthly expenses. My bill is still cheap because I have Mint Mobile. And I solved all my problems, I think. But what would you do? Would you have two phones or just upgrade to the iPhone 16? Let me know. We'll see you on the next one.